Okay, so welcome to Unit 1, Part 2, which is about love and heartbreak. I have chosen this theme because love and heartbreak was basically the portal that brought me into writing. Um, when I was younger, it was only ever when I was really, really in deep sadness that I would begin writing, generally in breakups and unrequited love situations. I would write, and the first piece of poetry I ever wrote was due to heartbreak. Um, it was actually a lovely piece about, star-crossed lovers, given that my first relationship was with actually a Muslim boy who could never really be with me, I guess, because he was young and subscribed to a life of Islam and would never have actually been able to stay with me. And I ended up writing this beautiful piece about the sun and the moon and how they were going to spend the rest of their life as an eclipse, but orbiting but never touching. And the sun and the moon were the kind of representations of the different calendars. Islam is dictated around the moon, I believe, and the calendar, the more Roman calendar, is dictated by the sun, I believe. So it was my first little dip into imagery, and it just showed up, and it's very interesting how the more and more I've written about love and heartbreak, the more and more I've drawn on nature to represent those feelings. And as I started to read other people's poetry as well, I noticed that there's some kind of universal wisdom in writing about love and relationships and using the power of nature to capture the depth of what we're feeling. The ocean's another big one, feeling the depth of the ocean to represent emotion, and a lot of flowers as well. Flowers come up a lot around like the blooming of love and planting of the seeds of love, and the death of a rose. And it was a really interesting experience as I started writing more and more about love to realize that these are shared themes and symbols throughout many different types and styles and cultures as well in writing. So yeah, I guess I'm sharing that because there is like this inner wisdom that we all have. I think that we're all deeply connected to this similar wisdom, and as you get more in touch with your feelings, it's really interesting the things that will come out to express, like the depth of that emotion. I have so much to say on the topic of love and heartbreak, and yet I really am not sure what to say because it is such a deeply personal experience that we each have on our journey of love and our journey of heartbreak. And all I can say is that throughout my writing, I have been able to change the way that I feel about pain and heartbreak. It's become like I mentioned, a portal or a point at which I can really begin to connect with myself. And once I had the vehicle and the outlet of writing, and I wasn't afraid to feel my emotions, and I was allowing them to come up and through me and out in my writing, I was able to let go of a lot. And I would say I'm somebody who's never really dealt well with breakups, and I'm quite terrified of them because I feel that I will not be able to cope. Well, that's very much how I felt in the past, where I'm like, oh, it's almost like a stripping of my whole identity, and I feel like I need to start all over again. Like, every part of me has been rejected, so I just need to change everything, and it was a very dramatic process. Until I got to a place where I started to realize that it wasn't about me needing to change anything in myself. I used to think, oh, this is wrong. This is not what I'm being is not the formula to love. I need to change it all so I can find love. And both throughout my writing and just throughout my general experience, I'm now realizing that love and heartbreak can be triggers to release more emotion that needs to come out and be processed so that you can be in a more coherent and authentic state. And when I started to shift and see love like that, I started to see heartbreak and disappointment and grief and all these other really negative emotions that I'd associated with everything failing. I started to see it as, okay, this is an opportunity for me to get more in touch with my own humanity and my own power and my own vulnerability. And my writing was the vehicle to that. Otherwise, without the writing, I wasn't able to kind of ground myself enough to look at my feelings and realize what I was feeling. It was just this big mess. But writing is something that constantly, when I'm feeling those really big surges of emotion, I write about. And I now do it with when I'm feeling love as well. It's not just heartbreak. I actually will consciously sit down to write if I'm having a big surge of like love and feeling loved, because I actually want to capture it. I want to remember how it feels to feel loved. And I will often do practices where I will go back and read how it felt to feel loved. And I actually have a compliments page in my diary where I will write, especially at times when I'm feeling very vulnerable and unloved, I'll write down a whole list of things that have been said to me by people that shared love with me. And reading that is really soothing because it kind of grounds me and reminds me that actually, yes, I am lovable and I don't need to change everything about me. And if it's not working with somebody, there's some kind of resonance detached that's bigger than me. It's not actually just me. And we're all on a path of learning and growing. And the people that come along in our path, like I'm not the expert on love and relationships, but through so much of my experience, every time I've had a breakup, more of myself has been released and shown up for me, and I've been able to grow new parts of myself. And it was always the part that I really needed to take that next step in my life. And when I reflect on all of my relationships, I look at, being really attracted to a guy who was super logical and realizing that was something I was craving in myself, really wanting that logic and analytical practicality in my own life. And then, another guy who was really indulgent and allowed himself all the experiences that he wanted to have without guilt. And I realized that was really a part of myself that I was craving for, given that I felt like I needed so much permission from the outside world and my family to just go traveling and just, do this or do that. So having, and also feeling like I couldn't just spend on myself either without feeling guilty. So that was something I really took from another boyfriend. And then there was, another who was just super kind, and I learned so much about kindness and inclusivity and what it means to just be nice and not have to play games. Like, it's actually fine to be nice to people, and that's a way of showing love, and it's actually can still be really attractive. Like, you don't have to be mean to treat them keen. And as I've grown, there's always been something else that I've learned from these relationships. And one of the big ones was that my expression is allowed, and that I am allowed to experience negative and positive feelings in connection with someone else, and that doesn't make it ugly. Like, that doesn't make me unlovable, unworthy if I have anger, or if I have insecurity, or if I have jealousy. And that was the huge gift that I received from the relationship that I went through, that actually did have a lot of heartbreak in it, but even feeling loved throughout that heartbreak was a real gift. And in the past couple of years, I've really channeled a lot of my strong emotional feelings into my writing, into my poetry. And at first I was writing very much, like, my poetry was very heavy and like heartbreak, sad, depressed feelings coming out. And it took almost like a year of writing some really deeply, like, codependent, needy, just like super piney type of poetry, which I read now. I'm like, oh bless, like, such a romantic, was so holding the pole for that, like, I can't live without you kind of love. Like, it's actually really beautiful when I read some of it. But then noticing through my poetry how I was going into this new phase through the experiences of love, because, like, with one person it was very much like this neediness, and then opening into like this other type of mature love where I was actually growing through being loved. It wasn't just like pain. I'm growing through pain, which was something that I came to believe, that I had to be in pain to grow, but actually growing through feeling loved and realizing that there's such deep power in actually just fully receiving and feeling safe in love. And when I started writing about that and seeing, like, there's actually just such equal beauty in like the poetry of, like, and the joy of love, it was a really big learning experience for me, because so much of my, like, the beauty in the art that I saw in poetry was like the bittersweet, melancholic, oh my gosh, tortured soul kind of love. And then, yeah, like, realizing through my writing journey that deep, peaceful, serene, whole and complete, universal, like, connected to the sacred and trusting love, like I'm a whole person, they're a whole person, and we're both together, and it's not a taking kind of love, but it's a giving kind of love. That's, like, just seeing the difference in my writing, I was able to see that like in a way I was kind of favoring the drama of love. Like, I was really favoring this, like, oh my goodness, it's so melodramatic, and I was almost ignoring the depth of the beauty of that can be in peace, and that there's like this ecstatic, heart-stilling awe that can come from feeling loved and feeling at peace in love. And I really just enjoyed being able to document that process of my own growth and my own relationship to heartbreak and love through writing, and watching it evolve over 2 or 3 years. So this is a little bit of a shorter video because the guided meditation video was a bit longer, but I just wanted to share a little bit of that for you to help you drop into your own feelings around love and heartbreak, and provide that encouragement that it's so valuable to be writing about both and not favouring one over the other, because there's so much to learn in revisiting and reflecting on our heartbreak, and there's so much to learn in celebrating and capturing the moments of our deep joy, and our writing is a way to keep that balance, so that we're not just capturing one side of our experience, because then we're ignoring part of ourselves and all the gold that's there. And if we want to look back on it, then we want to be able to get a full picture of what our experience has been, and where any biases may be, or what we're giving our attention to, in our internal world, because as we know, like what we're focusing on, where our energy is flowing is where our attention is, and where our attention is, our energy is flowing. So it's really good to start mapping out how our brain is wired around love, and where we can consciously be giving more attention so that it grows, and where we can be taking lessons and focusing in on the gold amongst all the mess and seeming despair. So that's the download for Love and Heartbreak, and I really look forward to hearing some of your shares as well. Thank you so much.